Good morning, and welcome to Technology Takes the Wheel. We're going to take a ride into the future with an overview and design of smart mobility. I'm Cheryl Parker, Regional Director of Public and Government Affairs for AAA, and we are so pleased to bring you this program today with our great partners, the University of Cincinnati Office of Research and DriveOhio. Just a little background about Technology Takes the Wheel for those of you who are not familiar with this speaker series. It was started in 2017 by AAA Club Alliance with our partners at the University of Toledo to spark a conversation about the transformation of transportation and its impact on our community. So we wanted to engage, inspire, and inform communities. And it has since expanded to other states with other partners around the country. And we are so excited to finally have our program with the University of Cincinnati and DriveOhio. It was originally planned, you should know, to be an in-person event held in March of 2020. And I think we all know what happened then. But what you may not know is what has happened during that time when it comes to connected and autonomous vehicles. And we're going to give you a look at that today. Hopefully you'll learn something new and be excited about the future of transportation. A few virtual event housekeeping notes. The cameras and microphones will be turned on for our speakers and moderators only, but we do want to hear from you, our audience. You're important to us. So we encourage you to respond to the poll questions that will be presented throughout this program. Please use the chat box. You can submit your questions during the chat, during the Q&A portion of this at the end of the session. And if you would like to have a specific speaker answer your question, please indicate that in the chat. And if you're having any technical difficulties, please email the email address on the screen there, AAATTTW@AAAMidAtlantic.com for assistance. We will share that. We will share that with you later on in the program as well. Again, I'm Cheryl Parker, Regional Director of Public and Government Affairs for AAA. And again, we're so excited to be joined by our hosts with University of Cincinnati Research and DriveOhio. We'll hear from Dr. Patrick Limbach and Howard Wood to also give you welcome remarks. Let's start with Dr. Limbach.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure to get together with you. Good morning, everyone. As Cheryl mentioned, my name is Pat Limbach. I serve here at the University of Cincinnati as the Vice President for Research, and I'd like to welcome you, our audience, to this conversation and panel discussion around advanced transportation and the future of mobility. As Cheryl mentioned, we were hoping to do this 15, 16 months ago, but we're very happy that you are here with us today. I'm going to start my opening remarks by just posing a simple question. What is going to be the future of mobility? Another question is, what does it mean when we say smart mobility? And when I think of it here at the University of Cincinnati, it means a lot of interconnected things. Things such as designing autonomous transportation systems and vehicles. There's safety and security, engineering different modalities, not just autonomous, but connected and autonomous vehicles. The smart infrastructure we're going to need, the effect this is going to have on our environment. How are we going to plan the cities of the future? There's so much that's involved in this whole topic of the future of mobility. And that's why the University of Cincinnati and really all of our researchers here are excited to be part of this panel series. This panel's purpose is to help people like you and me, gain trust through engaging experts in a dialogue to help us all develop a greater understanding of what exactly does it mean when we say smart mobility. I want to add my thank yous. I want to specifically thank all the hard work that went into envisioning and developing this Technology Takes the Wheel series. Cheryl Parker, you've done an amazing job with your partners at DriveOhio, including Howard and Rich Granger. I want to really thank Jennifer Kravickas, who is an Associate Vice President in the UC Office of Research, who leads much of our programming efforts in this particular area of research as well as in these series such as this. I want to thank panelists David Yang, David Hobbs, and our own panelists from the University of Cincinnati and our Advanced Transportation Research Institute, Research Associate Alejandro Robledo. Last but not least, I have to thank the UC Office of Research Events and Outreach Coordinator, Max Cormody, for all he does behind the scenes to put this event on. So without further ado, let me turn it back over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Dr. Limbach. And again, thank you so much for the great partnership that we have with you and others at the University of Cincinnati. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you, and we're excited about the program today. As you mentioned, our other partner is DriveOhio, and they really have their fingers on the pulse of all things connected and autonomous in the state of Ohio. Please welcome the Executive Director of DriveOhio, Howard Wood. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Cheryl, and thanks so much for having us here today. Just a little intro. DriveOhio is an initiative of the Ohio Department of Transportation. And yes, preparing for this future of autonomous and connected vehicle technology. We appreciate the partnership with AAA and applaud their efforts to really develop these public education outreach events and develop the curriculum. And it's a great partnership that we enjoy with AAA. So thanks so much for that. And of course, today to the University of Cincinnati for hosting today. So it's my pleasure next to introduce my boss and a welcome video from Dr. Jack Marchbanks, ODOT Director. So I'll turn it over to you and the video, Cheryl. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ohio is charged with developing and testing automated and connected vehicles and infrastructure. It's my privilege to be with you today representing the DeWine Houston administration. I would like to thank our friends at AAA. Cheryl Parker and her team are great to work with and are wonderful partners for us at the Ohio Department of Transportation. I'd also like to recognize the work of DriveOhio. Howard Wood and his team have done a fantastic job planning this event in partnership with AAA. Transportation is in the midst of a transformation, the likes of which we have not seen since the invention of the automobile. Disruptive forces, driven by advances in vehicle and infrastructure technology, connected, automated, shared, and electric, what the industry calls CASE, are at the heart of the transformation. Environmental, public health, social equity, economic, transportation safety, and both rural and urban mobility concerns are hastening the need for innovation in the provision of transportation services and infrastructure solutions. As companies and communities address these challenges, we in Ohio are ready and able to help. From the beginning of our administration, we have been focused on utilizing technology and innovative problem solving as we engage partners to develop and deploy solutions that will improve the quality of life for all Ohioans. As automated vehicle AV technology matures and vehicles begin to deploy on our roadways, the benefits to Ohio citizens in underserved communities, people with disabilities, the elderly, and residents in urban and rural communities will be significant. In Ohio, this AV effort is led by DriveOhio. Housed within ODOT, DriveOhio is charged with developing and testing automated and connected vehicles and infrastructure on the ground and in the air. I would like to quickly mention the Fly Ohio initiative. Fly Ohio is focused on developing and deploying advanced air mobility, AAM, projects like the Air Force's Agility Prime program that is literally developing flying cars. We are also working with NASA's Advanced Air Mobility National Campaign to develop an integrated vehicle and airspace system critical to safe and effective commercialization of AAM. This and other programs help differentiate Ohio from other states in the development of smart mobility solutions. As you can see, in Ohio, we take a holistic approach to advanced mobility. Here again, we see the merging of these systems and technological capabilities as companies begin to develop a ground and air automation strategy. The AV assets we possess in Ohio are second to none. The brainchild of Governor James Rhodes, the Transportation Research Center, TRC, is the largest independent automotive proving grounds in North America, and it houses the state-of-the-art Smart Center that is solely focused on automated and connected vehicle development and testing. DriveOhio projects include the 33 Smart Mobility Corridor in Central Ohio, the Automated Driving Systems grant focused on rural AVs in Southeast Ohio, and the I-70 Truck Automation Corridor in Western Ohio. We're working with the state of Indiana on that project. These programs give project partners real-world data and experience as they develop and test AV systems for urban and rural deployments. As we say in Ohio, smart mobility is a team sport, and partnerships are the key to success. We are witnessing the merging of multiple technologies into a new networked system that connects formerly siloed sectors of the economy through real-time data and communication. As these sectors converge, there will be opportunities for innovative states and communities to seize this momentum and secure an economic advantage for a generation. We in Ohio are ready to partner with innovative companies and institutions to safely develop, deploy, and manufacture AVs here in the Buckeye State. Join us as we develop the transportation system of the 21st century. Ohio is open for business and prepared for the future.
And thank you very much to Director Marchbanks and to Howard Wood and the team at DriveOhio. Yes, smart mobility is a team sport, and we have a great team that put this program together today. We have a great lineup of speakers with Dr. David Yang, Alejandro Robledo, and David Hobbs. But before we get to our first speaker, we have a poll question that we can call up on the screen. And before that, I see you there, Howard. Did you have something else that you wanted to add before we went to the poll?
Nope, I'm just gonna say goodbye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Howard. Again, we appreciate the partnership for sure. So there are three poll questions, or there's one poll question that we'll present right now. Does the future of transportation technology excite you or intimidate you? Does it excite you, intimidate, or a little bit of both? You can scan the QR code on the screen there or join at slido.com, pound 169074, and let us know if the future of transportation technology is something that excites you or intimidates you, or maybe a little bit of both. I think by the end of this program, your feelings might change. And I can see it's changing already. People are getting a little bit excited. Some of you somewhere in between. It's kind of fun to be able to see the responses in real time here as you submit your answers. Still, more than 50%. Say a little bit of both. The future of transportation technology. A lot of people are excited or somewhat excited, but not too many are intimidated. So that's pretty good for what we're about to share with you through this program. I think we can move now as we prepare for our first speaker, who is Dr. David Yang. Dr. David Yang is the executive director of the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, which is a nonprofit research and education organization. He oversees the day-to-day operations of this national organization. Previously, he was on the Federal Highway Administration, U.S. Department of Transportation. He's an accomplished author with numerous well-respected articles, and he is also an advisory board member on a number of university transportation research centers. He has been a guest speaker on several of the Technology Takes the Wheel programs that have been held throughout the country. We are pleased to welcome Dr. David Yang to us today. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Cheryl, and good morning, everyone. And it is always a pleasure to be able to join an event like this, Technology Takes the Wheel, to be able to share some of the work, some of the things that's going to be happening not only now, but also into the next 10, 20, 30 years in our lifetime. That poll question that you have presented, I thought was really a great question, kind of leading into this. I think for someone like myself, who is doing this on a regular basis, I think the future does provide a a little bit both excitement as well as intimidation. Excitement is because it's something that that's really that has a lot of great promise, but intimidating is because we are kind of going to uncharted territory, a certain thing where I need to sort of figure things out as we go. So with that being said, if I can ask to pull my introduction slide. As Cheryl mentioned, I'm the executive director for AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety based in Washington, D.C. At the end of my presentation, there'll be a slide that kind of show you the website address. You are more than welcome to go onto the website address to download any of the publication. It's open and available for everyone. As a matter of fact, that right now that we did a analysis recently. I think over 150 country has been downloading a research product from our work during the past 3 years. So it's always exciting to kind of be able to kind of see that. So what I plan to do today is I know there's going to be two other speakers that's going to be kind of laser focused on what's going on in the state of Ohio, some of the specific applications. So my strategy is to provide you a little bit about what's going on in around the world. Basically, kind of looking into the future and give you kind of really that high level 10,000 feet about what's happening not only in the United States, but in Europe as well as in Asia. So you get to see this kind of global effort, if you will, related to the future of transportation transformation. So if you can go on to the next slide. Before I start my presentation, I always like to remind all the audience is when we are talking about a transportation system, it really kind of boils down and encompasses of three components. You have the user, you have the infrastructure, and you have the vehicle. And when we talk about user, it's more than just the driver. Is all the people that's sharing the roadway, including pedestrian, including cyclists, all the people that's using the roadway. Because the whole idea is that is really the way we're designing the transportation system. It's really meant for everyone to share the road, so they can go from point A to point B safely and efficiently. And then the way to get there is obviously being supported by the type of vehicle. We have the passenger vehicle. We have buses. We use truck to kind of move freights and so forth. There's train. So there's a lot of different type of ground transportation that's gonna take us from point A to point B. And then obviously with the infrastructure, you have the highway, you have the urban roadway, and you have the traffic signal, you have the sign, and all that kind of supporting transportation. And I believe this is very important thing to keep in mind when as we are developing the future of transportation system is all three these components, the users, the vehicles, and the infrastructure, they need to be they need to be working in harmony so that we can basically bring people and freight from one point to another point safely and efficiently. That is a very important thing throughout, as you all see what's going on in the United States, Europe, and Asia. Is I think that is really how we are designing a system. It's not about one vehicle, but it's about a transportation system. So if you can go to the next slide. So to me, really, this is a photo I found on the internet, and the credit is beneath the link there. This photo actually capture that future, that vision about connected and automated transportation system, is where basically the vehicles, the infrastructure, and all the people, all the user, they are communicating their intention from for example, if you are on the urban arterial in Washington D.C. and if as a pedestrian you are about to cross a major a wide open roadway, does a car sees you? Does the other bicyclist, does the bus driver sees you? I think all these things, basically in the past, we rely on humans' intuition and so forth. And sometimes when miscommunication occur, we that could result in unfortunate vehicle crashes. During the past several years, what we see is that the number of pedestrian fatality in the United States has continued to increase. So I think basically if we can use technology, if we can use communication to communicate all the intention, so they can be minimized, we can have minimal misunderstanding and miscommunication. That will really greatly improve the safety of transportation system. I think this is really this is that utopia we are trying to get to, and then we are working towards that future. So with that being said, I want to spend just one slide, if you can go on to the next slide, to kind of give you a little bit about, basically the Society of Automotive Engineers level of automation. I think this is a slide you may see throughout other people's presentation, is to understand this is how engineers are using it to kind of define the level of vehicle automation. So basically just kind of fundamentally is level zero is what's going on right now. Basically, most of us are driving our vehicle by ourselves and so forth. And sometimes you could have certain safety feature in the vehicle, like the blind spot warning, to provide you assistance so you can avoid potential crashes. That's level zero. All the way to level five is what we call self-driving vehicle. So basically, vehicle doing that feature is vehicle, really you are only a passenger in a vehicle, and really there's not much you need to do. They can go from point A, take you from point A to point B. You can do anything, and that is a great future for us to look forward to, but we're not there yet. So most of the technology that's available, most of the vehicle that's available to purchase right now is at level one or level two. So right now in the United States and elsewhere, as you can see, for example, one of the very popular vehicle people has been people believe that's self-driving vehicle, which is not, is the Tesla vehicle. They are defined as level two vehicle that can, for some time that can help you to manage certain part of your driving. But most of the time, driver need to stay attentive. And you may ask, well, what about other initiative that's going on? Like, for example, like Waymo's vehicle in Arizona. Well, those are basically, they are vehicle, they are deploy those around certain part of Phoenix, Arizona, but they are not available to purchase them. And they are collecting data, try to understand that under certain operation design domain, how does the vehicle, the self-driving vehicle is working. And I think it is very important for the audience to understand this very complicated, yet it's somewhat straightforward chart, is that so you understand that as we are building towards the future, it takes steps for us to go from zero, level zero, all the way to the higher level of three, four, and five. So we are working towards that, and I think having an understanding of this kind of concept about vehicle automation, that will avoid unnecessary and unfortunate vehicle crashes that we see on the news from time to time. So I want to present this chart to you. I'm not sure, my guess is that the two other speakers follow me, may be using this chart as well, so that you understand is as we are moving towards the future, there's different level we are building up. But automated vehicle, kind of taking a step back, is only a part of the future of connected, cooperative, and automated vehicle system. So if you can go on to the next slide, let me spend the next few minutes to give you an introduction about what's going on, quickly take you around the world, if you will, about all the effort that's going on. I'm going to start out here within the United States. U.S. Department of Transportation, which is the federal agency that's kind of leading the effort with the development of connected and automated vehicle. Back in January of this year, they have provided a kind of, if you will, a comprehensive plan regarding the future from their perspective about automated vehicle. And then in the plan, they have laid out kind of 10 different principles regarding how automated vehicles should be deployed in the future. And these principle goes from anywhere, basically talk about prioritizing safety, emphasize security, cybersecurity, ensure privacy and data security, all the way to enhance mobility and accessibility. But really, I think what really boils down to is what the US DOT is trying to do as the federal government agency that's leading this whole effort is want to make sure that the state department of transportations, the county level, the city level, the industry, the academia understand that within the United States, whereas we are deploying the future of automated vehicle, really, there's different components that need to be considered and emphasized. But again, it really boils down to is how do we take people as we are deploying these technology from point A to point B safely and efficiently. One of the program, one of the very large program, they are doing a lot of testing, they are doing a lot of data collection. Is called the Karma program, which is basically the photo that's on the left hand side of the screen. And as you can see from that very detailed uh, um, diagram, there's multifaceted component. Basically, the traffic signal is communicating with the buses, the car, the truck as they are passing by the freeway. They are communicating with the with the infrastructure that's on the highway, on the port, and everything. That basically the whole idea here is that the vision of basically the U.S. Department of Transportation is so that everything in the future in a utopia transportation system environment, all these vehicle, all these infrastructure, they can communicating, they'll be able to communicate, and so that not only the vehicle knows the infrastructure knows the intention of the vehicle, but also other road user. For example, you have like I mentioned, cyclists, pedestrian that's involved, that's using the transportation system. And I think this is a great vision to have. And obviously, this is, I mean, if you have time to which you can download that document, automated vehicle comprehensive plan by the US DOT, on its website, or you can just Google it. You'll be able to see, they kind of provide that high level vision. It really takes a lot of involvement, including folks such as the researcher at University of Cincinnati and partner like DriveOhio to be able to kind of implement and realize these visions. So this is really just kind of US DOT's effort is continue to kind of providing these leadership to be able to realize the future of transportation system. Now, if you can go on to the next slide, let's go to Europe. So the European has actually been doing this a bit longer than the United States, in a sense is that they seize opportunity all the way back in the early 2000, and they have basically multiple programs. So basically, all those acronyms that's on the left side of my slide is the different program. For example, Drive Sweden was a program that completed recently. Basically, the Swedish government want to be able to understand what's going on with these vehicle that has some future technology on their roadway. So they was doing testing at Gothenburg, Sweden, to collect data, understand these vehicles functionality, how driver, how other road users are interacting with these vehicles. The Pegasus program in Germany was another example where they were trying to understand the operational design domain. So, under what circumstances certain vehicle technology will work. Certain vehicle technology can work well in replace of the human driver, so they can gather data to design all the way to some of the ongoing work like the high drive understanding basically the basically that the human factor component of the vehicle system to the basically the L3 pilot program that's going on right now, that's being wrapped up, that's involving multiple European nations. But right now all these are leading, and when you look into all these information right now, Europe has so far in their database they have close to 300 different type of research that either has been completed or in progress. Try to understand, try to design the future of transportation system that's connected, that's cooperative, that's automated, and that is basically that kind of leading to a new program that's being supported by the European Commission. It's called the Connected, Cooperative, and Automated Mobility Program. And in basically on that slide that's on the right hand side is they have seven kind of the goal. Basically, what they plan to do is in the next several years, there'll be the different European country will be deploying large scale demo, so they can understand, very similar to what's going on in Ohio, to understand how these technology really works and gather enough data so they'll be able to kind of design a system for the future of the transportation, for the future of transportation. So this is what's going on in Europe. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll go a little bit further to Asia, in particular in Japan. The Japanese government actually has been providing funding, and this is all the way prior to probably in the 2010 era, because as they were preparing to now just completed the 2020 Olympic. Basically, that was kind of springboard for them to do a lot of testing, receive a lot of funding to do future research on transportation system. And under this work right here, really, Japan's goal is so that they can build and maintain a safe and smooth road transport by 2030. So they have a timeline kind of laid out. Basically, in about 9 years from now they want to be able to build a system, a automated driving system in large places like in large metropolitan cities like Tokyo. So that different component, as you can see on the right hand side of this slide, is like there's different level of getting that information and then how those information can be deployed. And I think, for me, is that when you look at what's going on, and obviously what Japan has done is during the Tokyo Olympic, they were able to demonstrate certain of these functionality. I had a chance to visit Japan a number of times during the past several years. I was able to see what they were doing prior to the COVID pandemic. And if this was basically, if the COVID pandemic did not really kind of stop or postpone the Olympic game, I think you'll see a much larger scale of automated driving system that will take the athletes from their, for example, from where they're staying to the competition site, and so forth. But as you can see right now, is Japan is also kind of leading the way, and kind of using these platforms to gather data, to do demonstration, to understand kind of when we do certain thing, how does that respond to the technology? How would the user benefit from it? So and I only have so much time, so I can only spend a very kind of stay at a very high level. But If you can go up to my, I think the second to last slide is really, I really think that again, many of you's respond is that there's, as I start out my presentation, is yes, there's definitely a mixture of excitement and also intimidation regarding the future. But I believe that we, as a society, as a human race, we can achieve that future vision. But I think to me, some of the important component or the ingredient to get there is we need to continue to have champion in terms of the people who believe the benefit of these automated and connected and cooperative technology translation system going to bring us, and continue to promote it, continue to kind of talk about it, continue to kind of be the voice about these future technology that can really bring us to a safe and efficient way to move people and freight from point A to point B if done correctly. And obviously, in order to do that, as you have witnessed in especially in Europe and in Japan, is the government is providing a lot of resources in terms of funding, being supported by the industry, by the academia to fuel all this knowledge, to understand, to gather data, to analyze data, to make innovation. And that would take me to my third point is continue to do research, continue to do evaluation. As we know that, unlike many of technology, you don't need to that really doesn't many people you can test. Vehicle technology involving human, whether it's in the vehicle or outside the vehicle, need to be done correctly. Otherwise, it could lead to tragic crashes, like we have seen in the news in the past several years. So research done right and properly to evaluate and validate these technology is also an important component for us to continue marching forward. And obviously collaboration, and collaboration I'm talking about not only kind of, wow, you and I should work together. No, it's more than that. It's about sharing data, sharing information, what this company A did, what information they learned, not only can help to develop technology innovation related to that company, but hopefully certain information can be shared with others so we can understand and we all be able to work together, kind of collaborate by understanding and then moving forward. And also, I think toward the end, for those of you who are really intimidated by the future, I think that we are seeing the future that's continued to come at different type of introduction of technology. I think we need to embrace those changes and be able to kind of adapt and learn. And because I really believe that if it's done right, these connected, automated vehicle technology can really help us to kind of reduce crashes to and also improve safety. So that is my kind of closing thought with you this morning. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that's our website at AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, and we have done quite a few research in a different area besides vehicle technology. And please spend some time to visit. You can also sign up put your email in on the website. And then every time when we have a new research report release, you'll be notified. You can download those information. So with that, Cheryl, thank you so much again for inviting me as part of today's event.
Thank you very much, David. We appreciate your participation, as always, very informative. So interesting to see the vision, not only for the United States and the transportation vision, but other parts of the world. It's quite fascinating. Thank you very much. And we have another poll question. David mentioned the levels of autonomous vehicle features that you see right now. What about you? Have you ever used adaptive cruise or lane keeping assist in your own vehicle? You can scan the QR code there or join the website there to log in your answer. Have you ever used adaptive cruise or lane keeping assist in your vehicle? Those are autonomous features currently in vehicles today. Quite a few people have used this technology. Is it indicative of what you might do as the technology develops? We'll see. But here you are in real time. You can see how our attendees are responding. 59%, 55% now so far say yes. So we're looking half and half. Some have used this technology, some haven't. Pretty interesting. I think we'll get ready now for our next speaker from the University of Cincinnati. Alejandro Lozano Robledo is a very passionate and curious transportation designer with a fascination for the future. As an adjunct instructor of future mobility design at the University of Cincinnati and a design research fellow at the Live Well Collaborative, he is researching the future of mobility ecosystems in our city. Welcome, Alejandro Robledo.
Thank you, Cheryl, very much for the introductions. I will go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. Please let me know if you can see my screen right now.
You're good, Alejandro. We can see it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation. I'm really honored to be a part of this initiative. On behalf of the University of Cincinnati, the Office of Research, Digital Futures, and the College of DAP, I'll be talking about smart mobility design and the future of transportation design in our approach at the University of Cincinnati. So some of the high-level topics we'll quickly cover are in terms of the trends and technologies that are changing the landscape. Also, how we're approaching these new innovations, such as autonomous vehicles at the University of Cincinnati, and some examples of our student projects and the industry-leading research that we're trying to combine with these insights. So it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Alejandro Lozano. I'm currently an adjunct instructor, and my passion is future of mobility in the cities. So the complexities are growing, and it's really important for us as professionals, as designers, engineers, as innovators, to account for how will the world keep changing based on these new disruptive technologies. So I want to get started just basically with, it's a very exciting time to be thinking about the future of transportation. There are some really interesting developments happening. And as a designer myself, I always like to go back to prior visions of what the future was like. So as designers and innovators, we always try to envision the next 10, 20 years. And to me, images like this back from the 1970s are really refreshing because they were envisioning autonomous vehicles in some way. Maybe the technology wasn't there, but now we're at a time where this is possible, and now it's about the next 20 years. So to give a quick overview, the past 100 years have been somewhat stable in terms of the transportation paradigm. This means that cars have gone on the road, trains have gone on rails, the infrastructure hasn't significantly changed. So we could plan for a stable paradigm. However, nowadays, autonomous vehicles, connected technologies, hyperconnectivity, the Internet of Things, all of these are trends that are increasing the complexity of our systems, which in many ways are making us collaborate more. We need a multidisciplinary approach to really understand the ecosystem behind our vehicles. And therefore, the vision is, what will this develop into by 2040? How will these complexities be resolved? So I personally am partnering with other fields such as planning and engineering to really account for these complexities. So just as a quick intro, obviously autonomous vehicles are a very exciting concept. The idea of someone not driving a vehicle opens up possibilities for what we can do. So imagine an autonomous Uber that you can just request and then nobody picks you up, it's just the vehicle. Or you can do your work, you can share all kinds of activities with people while in motion. This opens up so much opportunity and economic development as well. Just to quickly go over some of the larger mega trends. So by 2040, half of the vehicles sold will be autonomous, 20% will be shared. This means that the paradigm of subscriptions is increasing. So ownership is changing. No longer will people have to buy a vehicle. Rather, they could subscribe to an ecosystem of solutions. What if a city had an automotive company as their customer, and that company would design solutions for the city rather than sell you a vehicle to yourself? Concepts such as smart cities, transit-oriented development. These are concepts that are increasingly possible thanks to all of these technologies such as hyperconnectivity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things. Obviously, this poses lots of challenges as far as safety, privacy, that's where, as innovators, we really have to account for this mobility revolution that is happening. There's a great push for sustainable energy, new manufacturing, and new technologies that make this possible. The current pandemic will change our behavior, but the bottom line is this is a very exciting time. There's lots of merging points of these trends and technologies happening that are very exciting for us to collaborate with each other. So how are we approaching this at the University of Cincinnati? Well, first of all, UC is a tier 1 research institution, which means we can collaborate among all the other colleges, and we have a dedicated office of research that facilitates multidisciplinary collaboration. I am teaching in the Future Mobility program, and how we're approaching this, just like Dr. Yang was outlining, we're no longer just designing the vehicle. The paradigm is changing, the complexities are changing. We really need to understand who these vehicles serve and the ecosystem around that, the city, the transportation systems, the infrastructure, and not only the people within the vehicle, but the people that are part of the ecosystem. So we're really trying to push for this holistic approach, very user-centered, very futures-driven, and more importantly, multidisciplinary. We can't rely on our own field. We need to go outside of our own field. So in the Future Mobility Design program, we really try to approach this holistically as far as the experience. We not only teach the skill set in order to visualize these experiences, but we really do user-centered research. We really try to understand what does the commuting activity of people look like? What do they need? Their basic needs. We try to capture these experiences through designing both physical and digital prototypes of these vehicles. We're increasingly getting into immersive technologies such as virtual reality, which are making the process much more effective, creating simulations, visualizations of our future experiences and vehicles. And I have some examples in a moment. So we still design vehicles in a traditional way. We still teach the skills that are required to visualize what future transportation would look like. But we're also leveraging new technology. So software such as Gravity Sketch that you can see over here allow you to immerse yourself in virtual reality and quickly iterate prototypes of the vehicle you're designing. So really playing with the different configurations of what this vehicle needs to be on the inside and on the outside. Where we do all of this is at our Future Mobility Center. This is a dedicated lab that we have with VR booths, physical prototyping facilities, advanced visualization, and we approach this in 4 levels of prototyping. So first of all, we don't have a single method to conquer an entire project. We really like to be cross-disciplinary and cross-methodology. So we build physical prototypes that then we can validate in virtual reality. We create experiences that can really get as close as possible to the final vehicle. And I'm really glad I can share a few examples with you in a moment. So as far as our student work, we're approaching it all across the board. So traditional automobiles, but also first and last mile transportation, personal mobility, living spaces, such as what if you owned a caravan or an RV that was autonomous? This maximizes the space. And then we also have concepts that leverage autonomous technologies to provide mobility on demand. So for example, a living space or a working space that can be sent to a location, and then the platform picks it up and takes it somewhere else. All of this is possible with these technologies. We have this award-winning project by student Hunter Elmore and Tanner Vanderbeer. This was a sponsored project by Hankook, the tire company. And the premise was, how will autonomous vehicles disrupt the urban landscape? In this case, the design was awarded because it was promising a really interesting future in which the passenger pod where the occupants go can be interchangeable. As you can see, the bottom of the vehicle where the wheels are called skateboards, and these can leverage different solutions at different times. So what if that platform goes and picks a different vehicle up and drops a different vehicle when it's not needed? All of this, again, is leveraging these technologies. And these wonderful visuals were created by Hankook Technology. So this is an example of finding the right industry partners that we can push our ideas and create the right kind of content to persuade the industry in that way. Also, we have rockstar students such as Matt Whitby that are using virtual reality to validate the user experience. So beyond understanding what the interior of an autonomous vehicle will look like, we need to understand what the complexities are. So remember, like Dr. Yang said, there's different levels of autonomy. So what if your steering wheel hides away when you're in autonomous mode? Well, you really need to start prototyping these solutions and understanding them. So students like Matt Whitby are really getting into those kinds of solutions. This is a pretty exciting example in a collaboration between two students in which one of them designed in a more way, but then the other one built a physical mock-up of the flying position of this drone. And then he strapped a couple sensors on the handlebars and created a whole flying experience for the drone. So this is a pretty exciting project because we're bridging the gap between physical and digital. This is as close as you can get without having to build the actual flying drone, if that makes sense. So these are the kinds of things that we're really interested in pursuing, leveraging current technologies to get as close as possible. So moving on to our industry-leading research, as designers and innovators, we really try to push our field forward. So talking about autonomous vehicles, what language will they communicate back to you? If there are no drivers or few passengers in a vehicle, how will you know as a pedestrian that you can cross the street? Well, we've been partnering with other programs at UC, such as psychology, in which this is a VR experience in which you have to cross the road as the autonomous vehicle is approaching you. And basically the vehicle acknowledges you, and the whole study that we're trying to conduct is what kind of language do they have to communicate back to you to let you know that you can continue crossing. In this case, it has some kind of an anthropomorphic animation letting you know that you as a pedestrian have the right of way and that you can move forward. So this is some of the research. Also, we've participated in some collaborations and competitions of urban reshaping. So what if cities repurposed parking lots for urban and community development? So what if autonomous vehicles transported you to your location, but when they're not used, they become a part of the urban landscape. They become part of what we call parking parks, this community social development. And then the largest project I'm currently researching on has to do with the local infrastructure here in Cincinnati. So as part of a master's thesis that I did, I was really trying to prototype different solutions for the mobility paradigm here in southwestern Ohio. So thinking about autonomous vehicles, transit-oriented development, partnering with local organizations and faculty at UC so we can approach this problem, think about the future. So we quickly prototyped and went through multiple iterations of user research and demographic research, geographic research, and we're able to prototype some really quick solutions. So what if we had a dedicated autonomous lane on I-75 highway, for example? A few years from now, this could be very possible. That could expedite the transportation time. Also, I decided just to choose one of the case studies, which is an elevated rail, and prototype out some solutions. As a professor, I really like to leverage the research I am conducting and try and see what this offers in terms of possibilities. So using virtual reality, I told my students to use virtual reality to design a 4-person pod that had to meet certain requirements. But to some of them, I created a whole virtual reality model of the infrastructure. So beyond designing the vehicle, students were given a whole immersive model of where this vehicle should go. This automated pod for 4 persons now had to go on an elevated mass transit rail. So trying to leverage these technologies. Well, some preliminary conclusions are that when students are given more complexities, more multidisciplinary understanding, this benefits the process greatly. So students that were given more context on the infrastructure, on the planning side, were proposing more complex ideas such as transit-oriented development. So connecting our stations around community and social spaces or spaces for economic growth. This is very promising. As a researcher and instructor myself, I always think about the implications of what we're doing in multiple spheres. So we're training the next generation of professionals. And once they go out in the field, they're more prone to these multidisciplinary collaborations. This is precisely what we're trying to do, because in the end, what we want to do is affect change, disrupt the mobility paradigm, which is the built environment. And if we start with education and if we continue with our own professional research and multidisciplinary collaborations, this can have a significant impact. So as far as the conclusions for this presentation, I want to conclude on 3 main things. First of all, acknowledging that this is a very exciting time. There might be some things that we might be scared about, but every large innovation brings challenges, brings uncertainty. So I want to reassure you that as long as we keep partnering and collaborating between ourselves, we might lead the way just in the right way. So it's a very exciting time. Technologies such as autonomous vehicles, hyperconnectivity, Internet of Things, machine learning, AI are increasing the complexities of our cities and transportation systems, but are also allowing us to dream of things that weren't possible before. So future transportation will be more complex and interconnected, which require us to be more empathetic, to think about what this experience really needs to be about. And like myself as a designer, I really need to partner with other disciplines, and we need to foster multidisciplinary collaborations. We need to really train ourselves to acknowledge these complexities. Number two, a new approach to education is necessary. These disruptive technologies are making us re-envision what we need to teach, what we need to research. So training, in my case, the next generation of designers, implies that we need to make them more adaptable and multidisciplinary. We need to respond to future trends, technologies, and complexities. We need to continue partnering with key players, key sponsors, and industry that can allow us to push these ideas forward, and also provide the framework for students to be able to find the next new exciting thing that might be a disruptive method or technology. And then lastly, I want to conclude from the research front. So understanding the potential implications of the collaborations and research that we're doing is really important. So fostering research-driven collaborations with local organizations, with industry, within UC, our dedicated Office of Research is a great place to start as well. And getting more exposure. So the more collaborations that happen, the more global initiatives, competitions, the more presentations we can share, then we can expose more people to this content. And that's where innovation happens. Innovation doesn't happen when we all, silo ourselves in our labs, but rather when we get to share our insights, and also benefiting the next generation professionals from what we're doing, because this is happening as we speak, but the next 10, 20 years are crucial in the process. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you about these topics. I really, really would like to continue engaging, in the future of transportation. So feel free to reach out, and thank you for your attention.
And thank you, Alejandro, for an amazing presentation. So exciting to see the design, the possibilities, and how engaged the students are in
Absolutely.
putting all this together. I mean, that's just really, really exciting. So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much for sharing that
Cheryl.
presentation. It
They
makes
make
it
all
all the more
possible.
real when we see the pictures in the video.
Thank
And
you.
with that in mind, here's our next poll question. If an automated self-driving vehicle was available, would you ride in it? Yes or no? Yeah, we saw those great pictures and images about the possibilities with the Uber and other applications for this technology. If an automated self-driving vehicle was available, would you ride in it? Let us know, yes or no. It's pretty exciting stuff to see, that's for sure. Scan the CR, the code there, and log on to slido.com to register your answer to the question. We see it there. We're looking at the 90% now, down to 88 now, but still the vast majority of you said you would ride in a vehicle with this technology. So it is pretty cool. Thank you for participating in the poll, and don't forget to chat your questions for our speakers who will engage in a question and answer with you at the end of the program. Now for our next speaker, Dave Hobbs. He is the Senior Technical Trainer and Course Developer for Delphi Technologies. With more than 40 years of automotive service experience, he's a master technician with multiple advanced certifications, serving as an adjunct professor at Ivy Tech Community College. He's a sought-after speaker for automotive conferences. He's participated in several Technology Takes the Wheel events for AAA, and we welcome him to this program today. Hi there, Dave.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate the opportunity to just a few slides here. Gonna make sure I get the right monitor. There we go. So looks like we'll maybe half and half here with the slide on one side and our speaker presentation, the other presentation mode. I want to cover basically 3 areas, in reinforcing some of the things we've heard from the speakers thus far. The side of ADAS that and that stands for, by the way, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, or sometimes just the word assist. Let's see if I can get my my presentation to advance. Okay, I was hoping I wouldn't run out of bandwidth here, and it's not wanting to advance. Amazing, it did yesterday. There we go. All right, so the rocket science of ADAS design, advanced driver assist systems, robotic cars, whatever you want to call them, or levels of robotic cars. Some of the levels have been briefly discussed. The human side of ADAS use and abuse, and some of the speakers have kind of touched on that as well. I really appreciate that, because this is really the biggest problem out there right now. And as a professional educator for professional technicians, for first responders, anything from a AAA, ERS, emergency roadside services, to firefighters, paramedics, dealing with the aftermath of the worst case scenario when it comes to automobile experiences, or I should say bad experiences, which I just had one. I'll mention that and I'll show you a picture of it coming up. That's the side of use and abuse. So education is the key, and all of our speakers have emphasized that, and that's what really this morning is all about. It's about educating ourselves as a driver, as a vehicle purchaser, which I unfortunately had to do recently. It was not a good experience, and then also, if you are in the business of interacting with vehicles, whether you are in the parts business, you're in engineering, as a University of Cincinnati, you know, we've learned that they're very technical. They really know a lot about the technologies, and they're growing engineers as we speak. Or you're a technician, or as most people call them, mechanics that are servicing these vehicles. That's very important, that the proper use and avoiding the abuse, which I'll show you a prime example of coming up, is being taken care of adequately. Otherwise, this whole technology is going to unfold and be nothing but a bunch of class action lawsuit TV commercials that we don't want to see any more of on our television, all right? Much less be involved with personally. And then finally, the rocket science of ADAS service. So that's going to be my 3 areas. And believe me, it is just, I should say, I don't know. I'm not an engineer that designs these. I'm sure that it's extremely technical. I'll give you some examples coming up, but it is also extremely technical, almost as technical, to service them, because you just can't get them close in the repair shop. All the operations, all the calibrations have to be perfect, or things don't work right or work at all, and you may not even know it as a consumer or driver operating the vehicle. So here's some major components just to get some hardware. I'm going to hold some stuff up as well. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to get my Yardbird, which is our platform here, up there. But somebody let me know. I'm not even sure I can get my chat box there. So excuse me, because I am kind of struggling to find which screen I can pull that up on, but I'm going to do the best I can holding up some components. Ultrasonic sensors, I don't have an example of, but you all know what they look like. You look at the back bumpers of a lot of cars, not all of them. Some of them just have a little camera eye in the trunk or the hatch or the tailgate of the vehicle. That's for the backing up. You can see who's behind you. But when your vehicle beeps, when you get in proximity of anything, another vehicle, hopefully a child on a tricycle, anything like that, where you need to be alerted audibly, visually, and possibly even have the car, if it has advanced driver assist systems, ADAS, actually have the car apply emergency braking so you don't run over something. So those ultrasonic sensors work off a very high frequency. It's a sound wave, as some manufacturers actually call them sonar. Even though it's not underwater, I always associate sonar with water, you know, submarines and boats, but actually some manufacturers are calling ultrasonic sonar sensors. But they're the little round plugs, usually painted the same color as the bumper. the bumper plastic cover, and they're now on the front of vehicles, and they're on the sides of vehicles in key positions as well, so that you can kind of have a better image, not an image, but a more sound alerts and more parking assist. Radar sensors, I'll show you right now what one of them looks like. I'm going to take the cover off of a radar sensor that has both a camera and radar, and it is electronically scanning. I know a lot of folks are hands-on. You want to see what this stuff looks like, so we're going to try to do that here in just a few minutes. So I take this cover off here, and you can see there's a little eye, that's a camera. And then the rest of this is the electronically scanning radar. So radio signals, that's what radar stands for, are beaming out of this thing, and they're scanning back and forth a few degrees to the left and the right of the vehicle. This is mounted behind the rear view mirror, right in the center of your windshield, right up against that windshield. This is called a ray cam. This was something from Delphi. Now the company has split, and we are called Delphi Technologies Division of Borg Warner. That's what you see down the lower corner of your presentation here looking at. And the group that originally was on all the early radars back in the 90s when this first came out with adaptive cruise control, that's now called Aptiv, A-P-T-I-V. So it's all the same DNA of what was born right in Dayton, Ohio, the Dayton Engineering Laboratory Company, DELCO, back in the early part of the first turn of the 20th century, the early 1900s, from Charles Kettering. So anyways, that is a radar and camera assembly. The radars have shrunk in size over the years. More on that later. LiDAR sensors, I don't have an example of one of those. I was teaching technicians for several years now. I've been covering this topic. This is a relatively new technologies to the automotive world. But then I found out actually recently, kind of accident, there was I'll call it a more simplistic or early form of LiDAR actually used in the early 2000s on some of the Lexus and Toyota models. So it was a more simplistic version. It didn't really catch on. It'd be making a comeback. LiDAR stands for light imaging detection and ranging. So instead of radio signals, it's invisible light, very similar, but scanning back and forth and much more complicated than police laser speed detection. It's the same idea. It's not a red or green laser beam that you can see like a pointer, but it is still a laser signal nonetheless. Smart cameras differentiate them from simple or dumb cameras. They're cameras that are on a data bus that communicate very quickly, and their image is not something you look at. It's something a computer then compresses and analyzes and determines what's in front of that car. Actually, LiDAR does a better job than cameras, so some cars will have the camera sensors usually in the windshield, looking forward for obstacles, lane detection, lane keep assist, things like that, where we're looking at the lines in the road. Those will be at some point in time, we predict, maybe replaced by LiDAR. And then 5G, which, as you well know, is the new high-speed internet, where it's like having a cable modem right there in your cell phone or in your car. That may take place, or we may see what's called DSCR, dedicated short-range communications. That's for the vehicle to communicate with other vehicles and also communicate with the infrastructure. And that's where DriveOhio is one of the leading states in the nation. And I know I do a lot of training and do these AAA technology take the wheels in several states now, and I'm really impressed with the state of Ohio, even though I'm a Hoosier in a neighboring state of Indiana. All right, so a little bit of just a summary of what I believe Dr. Wood talked about in his presentation, the levels. And my friends in the UK who do a lot of ADAS training over there in the European market, from the Delphi group there, I love the way they say hands on, hands off, eyes off, mind off, no steering wheel required. So those are different levels. And as I believe Dr. Howard said, they are definitely level 0. That's a car I learned to drive, maybe you as well, many years ago. Level 1 and level 2 and 2A, they sometimes call it 2.5, like a Tesla or a Cadillac with Super Cruise, where limited periods of time you can do your hands off, even maybe shut your eyes. I know the Cadillac Super Cruise won't let you. It actually watches your eyes with a camera mounted on top of the steering column, because a lot of abuse is starting to happen with these systems out of ignorance or maybe just stupidity. All right, let's face it. So the final level up it will require all the sensors, the technology you're looking at right now here on the screen, would be the no steering wheel required. So you could basically check out, let the car drive itself, almost like hopping on the monorail going to the Walt Disney World from the parking lot. All right. So when you get to a level 4 and 5, level 4 on the left, you may have to take control. You got to be ready. So it may be an old-fashioned car. You do have to have some steering and some accelerator operation and some brake pedal apply. And so the steering wheel could actually move back and forth. Depends on you move it out of your way. If you are, let's say it's a left-hand drive for the U.S. and other markets. If it's right-hand drive for the U.K., Australia, move it to the right. It's out of the way for most of the period of time. Level 5, like I said, the monorail take you from the parking lot in Orlando to the actual Walt Disney World. That's requiring no interaction with the drivers at all. Those are infrastructure challenges for dedicated roads and things like that to make that happen. We'll talk about one layer of technology, and that's radar real quick. I held one up. I talked about basically how the radio signal scans back and forth and bounces off items, and as reflective items, another car, typically the other vehicle has to be moving. So your radar won't necessarily pick up a parked vehicle. Cameras and LiDAR do that. But a moving obstacle, you're moving, the other vehicle's moving, that's when radars are calibrated by the software engineers to do their thing. They're different frequencies, 25, 24 gigahertz. That's why they call them microwave or millimeter radars, because the wavelength is tiny, very, very small, about the size of the opening of the little wire in the screen door, if you will, glass of your microwave oven. 77 gigahertz is where they've mostly went up to, 76, 77, 78, and that's well beyond police radar ranges, radar speed detection ranges, because they were actually setting them off some of the lower frequencies. All right, so by the way, before I go to the next slide, on this particular on the right, if I get my mouse to move, I think you can see that mouse right there. Adaptive cruise control, different uses for the radar, blind spot monitoring. That's a must if you can't move your neck that well, don't have the best peripheral vision, or blind spots in the vehicle. That was a must my wife and I decided we're going to have in our next vehicle. And because of the accident we had recently, we had to buy that next vehicle right in the middle of this car shortage. Quite an experience. But we made sure we had blind spot monitors. That's important. We wish we would have had something called cross traffic alert for the front. I don't know very many vehicles that have that. Tesla, some Cadillacs have those, but that's radars in the side of the bumpers for side obstacle or vehicles coming at you from the side. That was the cause of our collision. We couldn't see because of the high corn in Indiana on a country road. Pulled out in front of a car, couldn't see them. It's like an alley in an urban area. So those kind of sensors definitely help save accidents and lives. Now, here's some things that can actually cost lives if you don't educate your customers, your students, whoever you come in contact. As you educate yourself, whatever your motivation was to attend today, as you educate yourself, make sure you educate others, because there's a lot of ignorance out there. I'll call it stupidity or recklessness. And I'm going to show you one example. I tested it out myself. I had my left hand ready to grab that wheel at all times, but I drove this car, you're seeing this quick video, about 20 miles with no hand, literally just a hand ready at the wheel, no foot on the brake, no foot on the gas. It drove itself. This was just a Toyota RAV4, just a level 1, almost a level 2. Certainly not a Tesla or anything like a Cadillac with Super Cruise that drives itself under limited conditions for a period of time. This is not designed to do that, but people are abusing it, and I wanted to check this out. I want you to check it out and Google Inside Edition Tesla abuses. They have a collage, nothing wrong with Tesla. great cars. They have a collage on this little news video you can find on the web. It's about 10 minutes long, and you'll be amazed or shocked or maybe even scared of what people can do, crazy, stupid things people can do when they think these cars are robotic, and they're not yet. So here is actually this is, I think it's the RAV. I don't remember. I rent a lot of Toyotas for work. I'm going about 63 miles an hour. Looks like I'm driving, right? I'm doing a little selfie video here. And you can see my left hand is ready to grab that wheel. It's for safety's sake. So I'm educated. I'm not always do the smartest things, but I am educated. I know that that's what people are doing. Don't ever do that. What that does is that water bottle gives that steering angle sensor a sense that your hand is on the wheel. It fakes it out, if you will. It's kind of like wiring around a safety circuit in a high voltage situation, or removing the safety from a gun. It's just crazy to do, but people are doing that. So Google that Inside Edition Tesla abuses. Watch the video sometime. You'll be amazed. And don't do those things. Now, let's talk about being smart or educated. When these vehicles need service, a radiator removed, a condenser replaced, just anything that touches or comes in contact where even 1 millimeter of movement, 1 degree offset, left, right, up, or down, can cause a radar sensor or camera sensor to not work properly. It may seem like it's working. It may not set a trouble code in the diagnostic computer on the vehicle. It may not cause any noticeable performance reactions, but we've actually seen cases where they were aimed improperly and the vehicle almost had an accident until the technician slammed on the brakes and said, hey, why didn't the adaptive cruise control work? Because it was never calibrated properly. The calibrations are done with reflective targets, such as this one I'm holding up right here. And with printed targets, some are printable by home printers. Toyota is very good about that. Other manufacturers are requiring you to buy very expensive tools. I've got a handful of tools here to hold up. Some look like something you would use if you're an advanced carpenter, like this multi-beam laser. You can mount on a tripod. You can mount it on a little block that goes on the floor, and it shines at the vehicle, a laser line all the way across the vehicle, so you can quickly find points in the vehicle to put these calibration targets, and then use the diagnostic tool plugged into the DLC underneath the dash to actually then trigger those modules, those sensors into saying, okay, here is 0 degrees straight ahead. Here is so many millimeters off the ground. That's our centered calibration. If that's not done perfectly with the factory tools or some of the aftermarket tools that are quite expensive, like alignment racks, can cost $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, like the one you're seeing here, to accomplish the same job in a quicker time, then we have bad things that can happen, potentially, at the very least, very inconvenient things with these cars. So to sum it up here, there's that picture of a car, my car, that did not have any radar on it. It's a hybrid. So hybrids have to have TLC when it comes to repairs, even moving them off the highway. And that's why Delphi Technologies, brand of Borg-Warner, has partnered with AAA, with the AAAtechtraining.com. If you are in the market or in the career world where you're relating to me as a technician, a technical trainer, you go, hey, I wrench on cars. That's why I logged in today. I want to know more about them. Or I got a nephew that wants to get into this field. Please tell them that this is a field, like our first speaker said, the car has not changed more since it was invented 100 years ago, all right, more than 100 years ago. So this is a rapidly changing field. If you are a resident of the Buckeye State, and you are in the business, you can get any one of 10 or 12 courses that are available right now. These are full, informative video virtual training courses with Q&As, with certifications and so forth, for free. Basically, you get reimbursed later after you take the course and pass it, but it happens pretty quickly, right to your debit card or credit card. So it's you didn't know there's going to be a commercial, right? Anyways, techcred.ohio.gov, and just look for smart transportation. and then look for ADAS, Advanced Driver Assist Systems. And there's a whole collage of courses to take. And if you're not a Buckeye resident and you're watching today, AAATechTraining.com. So this is where you go if you need more information on servicing these vehicles and you don't really have a live training class, which is getting to be quite unusual these days with social distancing and the resurgence of COVID. That's why we're not live doing this in Cincinnati. We're virtual. Well, this is how you can stay up to date if you're a tech or ERS, emergency roadside service person, operating a lift, wheel lift, or flatbed. Our accident occurred because we did not have front or forward cross traffic alert. And that's what you see, the airbags blown down. It's very, very difficult these days with crazy drivers without these wonderful systems. They make it better, but they don't make the vehicle bulletproof. All right. So we still have to be smart drivers working on these smart cars and driving these smart cars. Thank you very much, Cheryl. I appreciate that. And I'll let our next speaker take over.
Thank you very much, Dave. Always informative and entertaining, and you're telling drivers what to do and what not to do, which is equally important. So we thank you very much, and we thank all of our speakers who are available now to answer your questions. So as I mentioned earlier, submit your questions in the chat box. If you want a specific speaker to answer your question, indicate that. And I believe we should have some questions now. Max, do we have a first question that we can ask? Okay, from Jenny Sykes. Has any VR user experience been designed for persons with disabilities? Alejandro, do you have that answer?
Absolutely. So I am personally involved in some research related to that, both in the transportation and also in the healthcare caregiving industry. So virtual reality has become a very disruptive technology and has shown lots of potential. So, for example, people with mobility disabilities or with any kind of disability for that matter, you can immerse them in trainings that would be very difficult to have otherwise. You can create experiences that simulate certain scenarios. So an example with mobility, for example, it would be how to transition someone from a wheelchair. If you provide care for a family member or someone who is mobility impaired, you can have virtual reality dedicated trainings on how to help someone transition from into a vehicle. We're getting close, and the technology is improving so much that now we talk about haptic feedback, meaning you can wear specific gloves or specific garments that track your movements, and you can simulate physical tasks as well as train anybody in any kind of scenario. So with autonomous driving, there are lots of platforms that will train you on how to behave, how to respond to an emergency scenario. And virtual reality can be a technology that gets you as close as possible without you having to do the actual physical activity.
Great. Thank you, Alejandro. And Jenny, thank you for the question. Next question. While we wait for that, I have a question. With the pandemic, I'm wondering if any possible new applications for autonomous vehicle technology have emerged, things that maybe we didn't think of before the pandemic that maybe accelerated the need for using autonomous vehicle technology. David?
Sure. I'll go first, and I think definitely, with the pandemic, there's actually really disrupted how our life is in the United States and other places in the world. And one of the example I can think of right now is not that long ago. AAA Foundation is in Washington D.C. and I live in Northern Virginia. So last week I heard on the radio there was a news about basically one of the largest school district in Northern Virginia is about to start school, but there's a shortage of a school bus driver. So they said, well, basically that county is asking parents to either consider walking their kids and walking their student or driving their student to school. I think that's one opportunity where actually, basically, if you somehow in the future, if we are working on those opportunity, then we could have automated school bus system where basically they are operating on low speed, driving in a very clear defined domain of neighborhood. Then basically we can actually help to alleviate, not replace, some of the basically actual school bus driver. I think that's one of those opportunity where it was result of the pandemic. I think in the past, many of the vehicle automation system are looking to like providing service transportation with people with for people with disability or elderly and so forth to go from their home to shopping center to hospital and so forth. But with the pandemic, here in the United States, with the shortage of school bus operators, I think that to me is one potential application that we didn't really think about in the past. So
Yeah, that is interesting, and that is a problem that is happening throughout the country, including here in Cincinnati. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves as this shortage continues to be a problem. Next question. What would you like high school educators to convey to their students regarding your work? Dave, would you like to start?
I'd love to. Math. I guess STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The placement of targets, for example, in ADAS calibrations. I mentioned how important the super accuracy was. If you ever have a chance and you look at, let's say, a Toyota service manual, they actually show you the math. It's trigonometry. So as a high school grad and a vocational school grad and adjunct instructor, I'm amazed at how much math I should have paid more attention to. And I never would have dreamed I'd be doing trig on a shop floor by using a plumb bob and a level, and even some of these gadgets that we talk about that speed up the process of doing it correctly still require those math skills. Just the concept of geometry, and I can't emphasize that enough. The Ohm's law, another thing, it's extremely important. A lot of technicians struggle with understanding how to use their diagnostic equipment like meters and oscilloscopes because they don't understand things like Ohm's law. These are things from physics class. These are things from science class. Chemistry is another one. So definitely, even if you think you're going to be a micro dirty jobs career, which actually is a wonderful, honorable thing. He's my hero. I love the blue collar trades and so forth. Whatever you're going to do in life, it's all rocket science these days.
Any other answers to the advice for high school educators question?
I think for me, Cheryl, is one of the things, fundamental thing, I've been doing research related to traffic safety, related to vehicle technology for many years, is that if we can teach our children about traffic safety at a young age, not only teach them, but also demonstrate to them the proper way of driving, the proper way of behaving on the roadway. That can really goes to a long way. There's lots of statistics that shows so many times is that driver or the user is one of the biggest component of causal factor for vehicle crashes occur, whether it's not paying attention, whether it is basically drowsy driving while kind of sleeping or drowsiness, or driving while under the influences. I think it is important that can be part of the curriculum, so that basically parents and educators can emphasize the importance about traffic safety, because yeah, as you know, on the annual basis, we have over 36,000 people die on our roadway in the United States, and that's a tragic thing, and we could avoid them. So.
Yeah, have to start early. And Alejandro, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely agree. Teaching the proper etiquette and behavior with these emerging technologies is important. But I want to answer it also from the side of, engaging students, exciting them about the future. Like Dave said in his presentation, this is the most disruptive moment in automobile history. There's so many changes happening that exciting younger students on the possibilities and wanting them to be a part of that, I think would be helpful. So anything from, having professors just share some of the content, or have lecture series in which high school students are involved in it, or any kind of a hands-on approach, not only to teach them of what these technologies can do, but also how they can be a part of this change.
Yeah, if I could add something, with driver education is so important, and it never stops. My in-laws are in their 70s. They bought a new Pacifica. Actually, it was a 2-year-old Pacifica, but it was loaded. It had everything. It had adaptive cruise, lane keep assist, all those level 1.5, 2, whatever. And they had the hardest time understanding how any of it worked. They have yet to use their adaptive cruise control. They do enjoy the blind spot monitor, little lights in the mirrors telling them that don't change lanes yet. They understand that fully. But even the younger driver who is tech savvy, my wife, she's fairly tech savvy, but she's in so many different cars that I rent and I do diagnostic development on. So I'm a passenger with a laptop and a diagnostic tool plugged in. She's backing out of our driveway, and the car we rented last week for testing had rear cross traffic alert. So she knows when she hears it go beep, 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 when she gets near the street, there's a car coming. She almost pulled out in front of a car a few weeks ago, and she says, "Why didn't it beep?" And I said, "Honey, it doesn't have that feature. It's a different model." So you hop in your spouse's brand of vehicle. It's a year older. It has what's called dynamic stop and go. Adaptive cruise control means it will come to a complete stop when the vehicle in front of you is stopping. You have your cruise control set. If you have the other version of it, maybe in the same manufacturer, it doesn't come to a complete stop. It just beeps at 20 miles an hour and slows down to that point. But then below 20 miles an hour, you have to apply the brakes. So all these nuances of differences is going to be sometimes confusing and potentially hazardous unless we continue driver's education on a lifelong basis.
Sure, that continual learning. Thanks to all of you for your answers to that question. And I think I saw a couple of comments from DriveOhio about the K-12, K-12 STEM curriculum. And there was a post, I believe by someone from UC also talking about multidisciplinary education. So we'll have to make sure that we provide this information to all of you who are watching right now so that you can get more information, because it really is important. And I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Max, are we just about out of time? Or do we have?
I think we're running close on time, Cheryl.
Okay, good. Well, we have time for one more question. Is the pickup vehicle expected to have increased costs initially until the technology becomes a little more streamlined? Or will this be cheaper than, say, Uber, since there will be less associated labor costs with no driver? So, Dave, do you want to start with that one? Is the pickup vehicle expected to have increased cost initially until the technology becomes a little more streamlined? Or will this be cheaper than, say, Uber, for example, since there will be less associated labor costs? Anybody have an idea? Not sure at this point. Hard to say. The answer to that one we'll see as time goes on.
I guess the question is, do they mean the pickup truck, or what pickup vehicle?
I think they meant maybe ride share.
Ah, okay.
That's interesting. So,
or the what is it called? I don't want to say timeshare, but there's, I believe, the new technology where you don't. One of you mentioned that you don't even own the vehicle; you just have a subscription, and the vehicle comes to get you.
Yeah, so maybe that's what they were referring to.
So yeah, I guess I can give it a shot just from that side of things. So we're looking at, for example, Ford has an initiative, I think it's called the Next 100 Years or something like that. And it's a program in which they're basically evaluating being a provider of mobility solutions for cities. So basically Ford wants to partner with cities rather than with customers, and that they're evaluating how this technology might disrupt all of that. And if that is the case, the upfront cost would not be on the user. It would be on the partnership with the city. And like Dave was saying, the users will subscribe to a system, to an ecosystem of solutions. So you can choose whatever solution you need on demand, but no longer will you have to own the vehicle, which in many cases for the technology and batteries might be a huge barrier of entry.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for submitting your questions. Thanks to our great panelists, Dave Hobbs, Alejandro Robledo, and Dr. David Yang. Very interesting and informative presentations. We've learned a lot, and it's giving us a lot to look forward to when it comes to the future of transportation. Thank you so much. We do have another Technology Takes the Wheel event coming up for those of you who are in Central Ohio, but it is actually virtual. If we can go to the next slide to talk about the event. It's part of celebrating Drive Electric Week. Technology Takes the Wheel and the DriveOhio Alliance meeting on Thursday, September 30th. Formal presentation from 10:30 to 11:30, and there will be a student spotlight from 11:30 to noon. Again, that's another Technology Takes the Wheel event. It will be virtual. There's a registration link there on your screen. Thank you so much for joining us for this Technology Takes the Wheel. We thank our partners, the University of Cincinnati Office of Research and DriveOhio. There is our host and speaker information there. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We look forward to what the road has in store for us for the future of transportation. Have a wonderful day.